Okay, today is day 137. Just a few more left, yay! But let's get through today. Capitalization is on your own and we'll check it at the end. Punctuation, usually a clause beginning with which is set off by commas. For example, the casserole, which is her special dish, tasted salty. And you can see there how it was, the which clause was set off by commas. However, if which is a pronoun for which one, a comma is not needed. Example, he asked which I like best. So in that instance, which one is what is understood as being said, and you would not use the comma. All right, let's get started. Their beautifully decorated cake, which had pink flowers, said Meg, melted 1/2 hour after the reception began. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is take a look and see if there are any quotations involved here. Someone speaking, and yes, someone is, and we know that because we have the said Meg in the middle of the sentence. So we have to figure out what Meg is saying and mark that off with quotation marks. All right, well, the beginning of her quote is right at the beginning of the sentence with their beautifully decorated cake. So you're going to put a quotation mark before the word there. And it will continue until we come to said Meg. So their beautifully decorated cake, which had pink flowers, comma, end quotation marks, said Meg. Now, the quote is continuing. And so what we do there is you would put a comma after said Meg, and then put the quotation marks in front of melted. Now in this case, melted is not capitalized because we're in the middle of the sentence. We're in the middle of her quote, all right? So, said Meg, comma, quotation marks, melted 1/2 hour after the reception began. We know we're at the end of the sentence, so we know there's going to be a period, and then on the other side of the period will be the end quotation marks. Okay, so we have the quote now set off. Let's go back into the quote and see if there's any additional punctuation needed. Their beautifully decorated cake, which had pink flowers. All right, we're not saying their beautifully decorated cake, which one had pink flowers. We're giving a little bit more information about the cake with a clause beginning with which, in which case there is a comma. So their beautifully decorated cake, comma, which had pink flowers. Well, the comma is already there because it's actually serving two purposes. One, it's showing that the quote is being interrupted with the said Meg, and it would be there even if you didn't know that because it's the end of the which clause. So that's where we are. Said Meg melted 1/2 hour. You would put a hyphen between 1 and half for that word. So it would be 1-half. Melted 1/2 hour after the reception began, and I believe we already had the period and the end of quotation marks. So what you have should look like this. Their beautifully decorated cake, which had pink flowers, comma, quotation marks, said Meg, comma, quotation marks, melted 1/2, see that, hour after the reception began, period, end of quotation marks. All right. Good job. Let's move right along. Parts of speech. Remember, using a nominative pronoun when making comparisons with than and a pronoun. So use a nominative pronoun when making comparisons with than and a pronoun. Did Scott score more points than she? Did Scott score more points than she scored? That's really what you're saying. So it's easier to see that you would use the nominative pronoun there after than. Okay, so the last several days we've been looking at nominative pronouns. Yesterday it was nominative pronouns versus objective pronouns. Here they're just trying to see if you remember what the nominative pronouns are. And as I am such a kind-hearted teacher, I'm reminding you right here what the nominative pronouns are. I, you, he, she, it, who, we, they. Okay, so keeping that in the back of your mind, let's read the sentence. You are much more interested in this project than, would it be I or me? I is a nominative pronoun, and they just told us when you use than, you use a nominative pronoun. So the correct answer is I. You are much more interested in this project than I. There, can't say I didn't tell you. All right, Let's go on to the simple, compound, complex, compound, complex sentences. A simple sentence contains one independent clause. A compound sentence is composed of two independent clauses. A complex sentence consists of a dependent clause and an independent clause, but those clauses can come at you in any order. So your job here is to write an S for a simple sentence, a CM for a compound sentence, and a CX for complex sentence. All right, so let's take a look at 4A. Released from prison, the woman went to New Start for direction. All right, well, we do have that introduction isn't a clause. It's just an introductory phrase. Released from prison, the woman went to New Start for direction. So there is only one independent clause in 4A. If there's only one independent clause, we would call that a simple sentence. Okay? It doesn't say that a simple sentence can't have introductory phrases and adjectives and all sorts of stuff like that around it. It just says it has to have one independent clause, and that's what this one has. No dependent clauses, just one independent clause. All right, let's take a look at the next one. Anyone who loses a school identification card must pay for a new one. All right, well, this one does have a dependent clause. Can you find it? The dependent clause is who loses a school identification card. And then the independent clause is anyone must pay for a new one. So if we have an independent clause and a dependent clause in one sentence, what do we call that? We call that a complex. So B is complex because it has the independent clause and then that who clause stuck in there. Complex. Let's read the last sentence. Joan's first instinct was to run away from the German Shepherd, but she stopped on the sidewalk to let him pass. All right, well, let's see. Our first clause, Joan's first instinct was to run away from the German Shepherd. That's independent. It could stand on its own. It makes complete sense. She stopped on the sidewalk to let him pass. That is also an independent clause. It makes complete sense on its own. So what we have here is a compound sentence because we have two independent clauses. And a sentence with two independent clauses is a compound. There you go. Good. All right, sentence combining, just two sentences to combine. Let's take a look at capitalization. You should have done this on your own. You are only checking your answers. Here we go. Fernand Ledger trained as an architect but later attended Beaux Arts School in Paris. Do you see all that? Not too many capitalizations. Pretty straightforward. All right. Good job today, guys. God bless you.